good afternoon to all of you. So I'm the moderator for this session, and I'm very glad, excited to have you all by our side. I'll be beginning with the introduction, and I'll be structuring the panel discussion in a manner where adequate time is being given to every speaker to share their thoughts. And effectively, after the individual comments and their ideologies, we will be moving towards a more common ground where we can have an interactive dialogue amongst the panelists. Now, there is a peculiarly modern form of the uncanny, which Glenn Albrecht, a philosopher, dubs solastalgia, a form of emotional or existential distress caused by environmental change. I, Ravina Bhargava, Assistant Professor and Organizing Secretary for International Symposium, Deliberations on Rethinking the Environment, organized by DME Law School, Delhi Metropolitan Education, affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi, welcomes you all to this International Symposium and its first panel discussion titled Sustainability in a Dynamic World, Past, Present and Future, inviting experts, scholars and participants from diverse backgrounds. The social and economic aspects of the discourse on sustainability, they have posed a tough challenge in front of nations across the globe to seek novel and alternative ways to achieve sustainable development. On 13 November 2021, as we are all aware, COP26 concluded in Glasgow, with all countries reaching a consensus on the Glasgow Climate Pact to keep 1.5 degrees Celsius alive and finalize the outstanding elements of the Paris Agreement. But it will be only delivered with concerted and immediate global efforts. Sustainability is a paradigm for thinking about the future in which all of us are involved in combined efforts to environmental, societal, and economic considerations, balancing in the pursuit of improving the quality of life. Now, at this juncture, I warmly welcome all our dear panelists. I would like to introduce our eminent panelists joining us today from different parts of the world. We have with us Ms. Patricia Rickard. Ms. Patricia Rickard was nominated to the presidency of the Oceanographic Institute, Paul Rickard, in 2005 and has been actively engaged in environmental protection for over 30 years. Under her presidency, she has made it a priority to bring to light the crucial role of the ocean in addressing climate change, and she has vastly devoted her energies to raise awareness among citizens and policymakers. Between 2010 and 2015, she was also involved with the French Economic, Social and Environmental Council, for which she produced a report on biomimicry, on the promotion of nature and science-based solutions. Since then, she's been the Vice President of the Ocean and Climate Platform, a consortium of 70 major organizations acting for ocean conservation. She helps build bridges between science and policymakers within the framework of SDGs 13 and 14 and advocates for the inclusion of the ocean in the UNFCCC agenda. In 2019, she also co-led the workstream on building resilience for marine ecosystems of the One Planet Lab, an initiative of President Macron, whose resulting outputs and recommendations were presented at the One Planet Summit in Nairobi and Biarritz on the sidelines of the G7. I welcome you, ma'am, to this August gathering, and I will be really looking forward to have an interaction with you. Moving on, we also have Mr. Stefan with us today. Mr. Stefan has worked in the field of international cooperation for more than 30 years. He founded Energies 2050 Association, which is active in more than 70 countries, of which he is the general manager. During his career, he has worked for several international and national institutions and has set up, coordinated, and participated in more than 250 multi-partner international projects supporting international institutions, national and sub-national governments, local authorities, as well as multi-stakeholders coalitions, CSO, public or private organizations. He's a specialist in the developmental and implementation of strategies to fight climate change and of programs of actions and low carbon development projects with high innovation potential in the fields of mitigation, adaptation, resiliency, sustainable cities, and territories, in addition to capacity building programs and access to climate finance. He has performed the role of team leader in significant number of international development and multidisciplinary climate change projects for Energies 2050. He has more than 25 years of experience in climate change policies, energy sector, and elaboration of national and international strategies. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We are delighted to have you. Next, we have with us Mr. R.S. Rawat, Deputy Director General, Indian Council of Forest Research and Education, Dehradun, Government of India. Sir has more than 24 years of research experience in the field of forestry, especially on biodiversity and climate change. Successfully, he has also spearheaded the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development funded RED Plus Himalaya project as the project director and developed state RED Plus action plans for the states of Mizoram, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and Sikkim. Involved in preparation of National RED Plus Strategy 2018 for the implementation of these activities in India. Also, he has been involved in the preparation of Safeguards Information System for implementation of RED Plus activities in India. Sir is presently executing the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change UNDP funded project titled Mitigation Actions, Constraints, Gaps, and Related Financial, Technical, and Capacity Needs to address climate change concerns in the forest sector in India, and the World Bank funded Ecosystem Services Improvement Project. He has published over 61 research papers and 43 books. Sir, we are really thankful for you to join us today. Thank you so much. We also have with us Mr. Naveen Mathur. Mr. Mathur is business and strategy expert with over 25 years of rich experience across various industries. He has worked earlier both in India and overseas markets in companies such as Water Health, Cellular Group, Nokia, and Electrolux. He is currently the CEO of Methri Aquatech, a company formed under the Make in India initiative of the Government of India, with the vision to build water from air as a new scalable and sustainable category of water while preserving crucial ground and surface water resources. In this endeavor, the company has also developed nature-based solution called Make Doodh that can mitigate global water scarcity by harvesting water from the air at scale. Atmospheric water generator manufacturer globally, Sir has the record of installing over 600 installations, guaranteeing water security in 27 countries. Winning many prestigious domestic and international awards. We welcome you, sir. We also have with us Ms. Linda Wong. Ms. Wong is the Deputy Secretary General of China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation, a member of IUCN's International Union for Conservation of Nature Commission on Environmental, Economic, and Social Policy, a senior advisor on Sustainable Development Goals to the LeagueNet, and a member of the Pathway to the 2022 Declaration Blog Advisory Board. Her core areas of focus include environmental governance, biodiversity conservation, responsible production and consumption, ethics, and mobilizing multi-stakeholders to participate in environmental issues. The CBC-GDF is an NGO and a scientific association dedicated to environmental protection and biodiversity conservation. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. We also have Ms. March Zal. Ms. Zal is the coordinator of the Green Office movement. She supports green offices all over the world in their aim to make their institutions more sustainable from within, bringing together top-down and bottom-up initiatives for a more impactful transition. She also has a background in European public health, sustainable agriculture, and philosophy of science and technology. She's specifically interested in human behavioral change, promoting healthy, sustainable, and peaceful behavior at the individual as well as societal level. Besides her work at the Green Office, she has her own coaching and training company where she combines her insights from different cultures, interests in art, scientific background to help people find their role in the transition we are currently in. Thank you all so much for being here. We are delighted to have you. As per the structure of the panel discussion, we will be providing adequate time to each of the panelists and experts, trying to draw from their respective areas of expertise, followed by an interactive dialogue involving common questions to be posed to all the experts. So I shall be beginning with all of your due permission. This question is actually the first one addressed to Ms. Patricia Rickard. I would like to open this panel discussion by beginning to deliberate upon the environmental protection of our water bodies. I seek your opinion in this two-part question, ma'am. A lot of money, as we know, is associated with marine activity of humans in the sea, and the sea is all around us. Over time, the human interference, which is caused by, say, fishing industry, wastewater management, plastic, global shipping, pollution running off the lands, it has all devastated the marine life over the years. So according to you, ma'am, what should the globalized world do on a local scale to counterbalance the degradation which is caused by such activities? Please, ma'am, your take.
Well, first of all, hello to everyone, and thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here with you this morning. When it comes to ocean, people do not really realize what is the really impact of the ecosystemic services that the ocean gives to the planet. We live in the world today that we have been raised, educated, and we make our excellencies and our fortune on the planet, on the human activities that are mostly turns to technosphere, and we have forgotten that we all relied on biosphere. And when it comes to biosphere, ocean plays a major role. Ocean is 71% of the planet. Ocean is 50% of the oxygen that all the living species in the world can breathe. Ocean absorbs 30% of the carbon, and ocean absorbs, which is very more important, all the extra heat we have produced since industrial era. So basically today the ocean is much more than a fish tank. It's absolutely, it's really the art of the living machine of the planet. And still we look at it as the only place on the planet that where you can do whatever you want. Behind the national jurisdictions, it's a huge forest. I mean, the high seas are just open land to the richer, the most powerful, whoever gets first, whoever gets the bigger boat, whoever gets the bigger fridge, whoever gets the deeper net. So we really have here an abuse of use of what is maybe the most absolutely common, as I mean, it's a common for humanity. It's a common good of humanity. Usually you listen that the planet belongs to the future generation, blah, 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 blah. You know, we all know that very nice and very poetic projection, but a planet without an ocean is a dead planet. When you look around you in the space, I mean, you can go to Mars, you can go to the moon, you can go to all over the planet. Humanity is spending trillions to go out there in the space to look for water. And we still live in a planet which is blue, and it's 71% of the ocean, of the water. And we still use, and we just use that amazing living surface just as a playground and a fish tank. So we really have to rebalance the knowledge and the consciousness that the ocean is much more than that. The ocean is it's the other, the planet's got two lengths. One is green and the other one's blue. So we should be very, very careful with the blue one too.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your sharing of your ideas. This question was a two-part question. So it goes on the same lines that, as you said, we need to be very careful. We need to be very sensitive about these resources. And yet, very recently, the reports show that there is a further deterioration of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. And this is coming after 2 years of a mass event where bleaching already took place, which took away 2/3 of the corals. And this shows that these events represent that the human efforts at sustainability are not reaping fruits. So realistically speaking, do you think our idea of sustainability in purview of these new findings needs an overhaul?
Well, this sustainability today needs to have much, much more complexity. When you talk to people about sustainability, most of the people will stop to energy. I put solar panels, I have a windmill, I've become sustainable because we don't live in a world or in a human society that includes the living part of the planet. Today, if you really want to be sustainable, and I mean sustainable on what I would call the science, sustainability science, you should address at least 10 SDGs at the same time. Most of the people sometimes tackle one or two, so it will be SDG 13 for the climate, it will be SDG 14 for the water and the ocean. It's going to be SDG 1 for the poverty or the food security. But the reality is that today, if you really want to have a concrete effect, I mean, and going over adaptation and going really more forward to mitigation, you need to have the sustainability science. And if your innovation, if your action, and if your act doesn't include at least 10 SDGs, you're not on the right path. The ocean, it's an amazing place we don't have any indicators, not enough indicators to measure what people are doing for the ocean or for the rest. But just remember one thing: everything starts from the ocean and goes back to the ocean. I mean, the world runs on a circular economy. I mean, the water runs on circular economy. Everything turns in this planet. We are the only living species that really keeps straight and that doesn't have that circularity completely embedded in our minds. But the ocean, I mean, everything goes from them. And if you wanted to have an amazing, efficient world, imagine whatever you produce, whatever services you provide, whatever you're doing, imagine you've got a little blue label and said ocean friendly. Whatever you do has an impact in the ocean. If you take your car to go to the office, you have CO2, and CO2 is gonna have an impact on the ocean because of acidification, because of climate change, because of atmosphere warming. So if you go if you wash your hands, even if you live very, very far away from the ocean, as soon as you use the water, you will have an impact on the ocean. So basically, ocean is always we are impacting the ocean always, and mostly we have no clue about how important the ocean is today. It's really the best, the last fences and the last protection against the acceleration of climate change. But still, we're gonna have some changes. We're gonna have sea tides. We're gonna have waves. We're gonna have storms. We're gonna have sea level rise, and we still see that as a threat. And then we realize that humid zones, I mean, sea marshes, and all the area in the world where you have a very high, low, how do you call that? Sea marshes are the most richest and the most productive places in the world. So we need to really work very, very quickly and very deeply, and with a very complex approach, multi-transdisciplinarity, on what is going to be a world with a different coastal area. We were used to beaches and cliffs, but we're gonna have an amazing humid zone coming to our future, and those zones are going to be very, very rich as long as we see them as a nurseries and as a chance, instead of looking them as a problem and building fences. So we need to really we need to understand. I'm sorry, there's an echo, I'm afraid. So we really need to integrate the biology, and the ecosystem services within our economy, because when you think a little bit, all our economy is based on something which is at the beginning ecosystem services. So I think we're talking to a law school. We are so used to the rules of men's and humans. It's really time that we are more curious and more aware and more wise with the rules of life, of the living.
Thank you, ma'am. That really sets the tone right to this entire event. Drawing from what ma'am just said, I would address the next question to Mr. Naveen Mathur. From deriving his experience as a business and strategy expert, sir, you have developed certain nature-based solutions. Could you please talk a little about, shed some light upon this new way through which humans can adapt to the changes coming in?
So if you could please switch on your video. Can't hear you. So you're not still audible.
Okay. Maybe if sir could log in again, and maybe Naveen sir, if you could try logging in again. Till then, I would probably move on to the other panelists. I also had this question for you, Mr. Stefan, because with your experience in the industry and in this field, what can you tell us about the goal of achieving sustainable development in the 21st century?
Thank you for your question. So I don't know if you want me to share some slide or just like that, whatever you want, because I think slide can be helpful. So I will not go too much in detail, but just to keep some figure, because at the end, I think, and to start answering your question, that we may probably too much advocate for, let's say, natural change. And so forgetting somewhere that we are in a very complex world with a lot of institutions, parties, with very fragmented interests and sometimes contradictory ones. So our point is not to say what can be done, but what can be realistically done in a very short period, and by using existing systems and trying to transform when possible the systems. Otherwise, it will be just advocating. And so far, since decades, things are getting worse. That's clear. We don't have any green indicators, I will say nowhere. And so we can have many new reports, like the last assessment reports from the EPCC. We will wait for the next one next year with the EPBS and EPCC ones to make a common report. We can have so many, let's say, science, we just recall to act with so very urgent data, which are critical. So Patricia was speaking about the ocean, but we can speak about any topics which are very dramatic, and people which are already concerned are billions of people. So we're not speaking about only a small number of places, of peoples to be, let's say, at least to have consequences. No, we are speaking at such a huge number of, let's say, biodiversity loss, as well as also by people which are obliged to move, and everything is, let's say, interconnected. And even worse, if we look to, okay, I will not go to my presentation, but I can do like that, it's whatever. So, and if you look to the international frameworks, it has also to be recalled that so far, parties which are negotiating and making some agreements are countries. We have the 9 big groups of observers. We are parts of one of these groups, and we're also involved in the local governments ones. So we are, but by the way, parties are negotiating and parties are putting in place some agreements. We have the global convention, but we have also a lot of multi-environmental agreements, partnership on forests, on water. We have so many, let's say, big, let's say, networks which are working. And so far, only 4 of them are binding. What does it mean? It means that at the end, we rely on the system which allow each of these big players to, at the end, decide whatever they want. So what is very important to keep in mind is that despite science recalling to act, and again, we have all this material since decades, the reality is that we have this kind of coalition, we have this kind of reality, and on the opposite, and going back to your question, we have big stakeholders already involved also in some coalition with some clear targets, but doing exactly the opposite side. So if I just want to give one very nice example, which is dramatics, and Patricia was speaking about ocean, but we can speak about energy. I can speak about land use, whatever, but just energy. And it's very interesting because if you look to all the scenarios worldwide, and for example, the ones from the International Energy Agency, the last one, the Net Zero 2050 report, but even me, I was in the special report on renewables in 2011. So we have this kind of report since decade, let's say. But okay, if you look to this last one, they just say that at the end, we will need to stop new oil extraction till the beginning of 2022. We need to leave at least 85% of the coal under the ground, and we need to decrease the gas consumption by at least 75% by the mid of century. So just compare the figure, the situation about even the war situation. So, and all these big, let's say, stakeholder players have put in place some trajectory which will consume the global carbon, let's say, resource available by 2030. So on the same times, we make some very large and nice commitments, which are not binding. On the other times, and exactly on the separate parts, each stakeholder is doing something separately, and sometimes with very contradictory approach. So our question, when we think about what is the necessity to change something, and it is realistic to try, yes, the answer is yes, but we need to think, do we need to change the system? Do we need to, so this one, I can just share one of my slides to open the debate on this issue, if you agree. So, because I think it's very important not to all the times, you know, think that we can, I will go just to some of them, because to open the discussion on something to say, okay, so what can we consider to have to be changed? Do you have my screen? It's working?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so I can share my presentation if some of, okay, at the end, because I put many informations, you know, to fix with connected, to be connected with something. So what can we, many people are claiming about the UN system and international institution. Okay, what can it can be an option. Do we think the overall process of negotiating and put it in place something to be practical is okay enough so far? And again, we have hundreds of multilateral environmental agreements with also the Tree Convention. Just as an example, the Tree Convention speak about forest on a different angle, but there is also the World Partnership on Forest and now the Ecosystem-based initiative, because countries disagree to put on a specific convention this topic. So everything is complex, but okay, do you think that your overall process is not accurate? Do we think we can work on making legally binding the frameworks and their outcomes? We have many voluntary as well as, let's say, official, let's say, outcomes from COP, whatever it's a biodiversity, desertification, climate ones. So do we think we can work on legal and financial frameworks you know, with standards. So Patricia was speaking about the blue stamps. Okay, why not? But what can be the MRV, you know, the monitoring, reporting, verification process? Can we also rely to connect that with the indices, you know, the national determined contribution? Can we also connect that to the national adaptation plan of country? So what can be the point? We are going to put some things to be at least consistent and to refer to global ones, to be connected not only to the SDG, but also to the way we are going to produce and consume, you know, the so-called, okay, so let's say it is a trajectory we can work on. Can we imagine to have a coercive or incentive measures to support? What can be the way also to consider science? So each master contribution of science is dramatic, and we can even add social science, human science, vulnerable population, disability. So everything we have red light. Can we think to enlarge, to reinforce funding for solidarity, adaptation, resilience, and mitigation? But who will gonna pay? What can be the systems to make a tax, to make a, you know, a revenue of it? Can we consider, like it was the case in the last IPCC report, to say that adaptation is not anymore the final option, because adaptation has to be part, and we as Energy 2050 call for that since many years, that adaptation with the co-benefit is part of the mitigation patterns. But how can we measure it and to dedicate, you know, the appropriate funding, which is billions of euros? So can we consider also the environmental, social, and economical loss for affected population, and at least what can be the links with citizen mobilization? So I just want to open the discussion, because I will give you one figure again with energy, because it is a simple one. So going back to the way we subsidize fossil fuel, I'm sure many of you already know the topic. It's the dramatic topics, because almost all the country has subsidized fossil fuel. Okay, and so far it costs 6.5% of the global worldwide GDP. Can you imagine? 6.5%. So it's thousands of billions. So it's just crazy. So this amount is for, let's say, sustainable way, and we create locking effect, because when we subsidize this kind of energy, we create gas, we consume intensive energy in industry, in building, in transport, in consumption production. So it's crazy. So, but on the opposite side, if you look to the way they want to decline the net energy roadmap I was speaking on, it will create 4% of the increase of the worldwide GDP by 2050. So if you consider by just doing just something which is meaningful, I'm not speaking about changing the way we are living, just changing, reinforcing energy efficiency, resource efficiency, and also renewables, not only as energy, but also as a resource. You can have up to 10% of the global GDP by just doing nothing. Just changing, you know, something which is so easy. We have so many solutions. So just to open the debate, we need to have a very systemic approach. We need to be absolutely mad about indicators. We need to measure everything. We have the knowledge to measure what we so-call additionality. It's good for carbon footprint, but it's good for everything. So as soon as we create this kind of awareness by the measurement process, you can create what's the so-called reinforced transparency framework. And as soon as you have something like that, you need to work on education, not only education for young people, but education by providing solutions to make guys not complaining for global change, like we have on the streets, but claiming for solution as entry doors to make change, not only because people want to change, but because people trust we can do some concrete change to be measurable enough. So this is my, let's say, first statement. Sorry, I'm being quite long, but this is so clear. We need not to advocate, we need to demonstrate opportunities, and there are so many ways we can measure things, and also focusing on what can be the co-benefit of doing something and creating added value by avoiding cost on stupid and locking process. So this is my first part. Sorry for being long.
Thank you. This absolutely brings all the enthusiasm and the need that we should be feeling about the environmental protection that we're talking about. And this brings me to Ms. Linda Wong. Ms. Wong, because you have been ardently working in the field of conserving biodiversity, And it has been such that, as both our earlier panelists have said, that it has to be an integrated approach which begins with you. If you want to do something, only then it will bring into action. So what, according to you, can citizens, communities, and people as such can do personally to bring these issues to seriousness? That is my question.
Thank you. Actually, I prepared a PPT. Can I share it?
Yes,
okay.
You may, please.
This one. And okay, let's do this. Just a moment. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. I feel very honored. And I'm Linda Wang from China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation. It is Beijing based, and we are a national academic society dedicated to biodiversity and green development, as well as we are also a very independent NGO. So let me get a little bit about our history. We were founded in 1985, started from the mule deer reintroduction, because the mule deer was extinct in China, although it was native to China. But luckily, Duke of Bedford has introduced some to Europe and has kept some species. And then in the year of 1985, he kindly sent some mule deers back to China, and that's the start of our foundation. And the species has also expanded from just a dozen to now almost 10,000. It is a kind of very successful species reintroduction. So our scope is kind of very broad, as you kindly asked about the civil society's participation is what we our main area, and we are using different approaches to advance the sustainability. Today, we are facing climate crisis and biodiversity loss crisis, and as well as such as COVID-19, the public crisis. And all these are not isolated. They are very, very closely related, and we need to handle these things in a holistic way. So let me show you this picture. You may learn it very familiar, the great Indian bustard. And we in China also has some similar species, and it is critically endangered. 7 years ago, it has just a wintering population just 500, because it is heavily hunted. It is the big-sized bird or easy target for poachers. And we mobilized people's participation in saving endangered species. The center picture with the green flag, it is the foundation, the establishment of our support to local community conservation area. And since then, in 2016, the volunteers, without any pay, they went to patrol, and they go to field day and night to fight against illegal poaching. And they also aware local people's awareness, like the picture shows, they tell the local villagers this species is endangered and we need to protect it. And if you hunt it, the illegal behavior will get you heavily punished. So this is a kind of awareness promotion. It is very effective. Today, the population of this great bustard species in China has risen almost 3 times due to people's participation. The next story, this moment. The next story I'm sharing is about the energy. We need to think about promoted synergies between different SDGs, because when we are achieving one target, one goals of the SDG, we cannot sacrifice another. Today, with the mainstream of climate change, the clean energy is very popular, and a lot of development projects are going on. And the right picture I'm showing here is a vulture. It was its leg was cut down due to the blades of moving wind farms. This was happened in January this year, and is actually birds serve very important ecological functions in nature. So when we are doing the new energy development projects, we need to think about biodiversity. We need to promote synergies between biodiversity conservation and climate change. That's what we do, and we have carried years of research and policy advisory. And latest progress was that our policy proposal, political proposal, has submitted to China's 2 sessions earlier this month, and it will advance the policies. The next one is about our awareness promotion and saving endangered species. This is pangolin, and I know there are also Indian pangolins in your great country. And actually, all the 8 species of pangolins are facing or threatened by extinction. The reason is multiple and heavily hunted, and the traditional use of medicine, illegal consumption or so. So our efforts include to mobilize people to fight against illegal hunting, and we helped to remove pangolins from Chinese pharmacopoeia, and we do a lot of awareness promotion, and we do we fight against the illegal overconsumption of this species, even though some seemingly legal use, but actually we after our investigation, we found that it was illegal. So over the past 7 years of conservation measures, the species is gotten much better in China. And we have established many community conservation areas to save these species. The next one is about environmental public participation in policy. This, due to the time limits, I will just go very quickly here. Okay, this is about plastic pollution. As the first honored key speaker has said about marine pollution. Actually, it is heavily influenced by our human behavior, like over packaging. You can see the mooncakes here, although it is so heavily packaged, but we found the ironic thing that it is qualified according to the national standards. So something wrong with the standards. So we called for the modification of our Chinese related national standards on over packaging. The next one is because today's topic is also involved in past, present, and future. I would also like to highlight the value of tradition and faith-based conservation. Like the left picture shows the hill. The hill is actually sacred hills in China, the minor groups, but it is highly conserved, the biodiversity. So traditional wisdom in today can play a very important role in conservation. This one is environmental public interest litigation, which maybe that many people know us through the reports of this, like the Stanford Law School guiding cases has gathered some of our leading cases, and the Environmental Laws Institute also do the same. Since China's environmental law has taken into effect in 2015, we have filed about 200 litigations against the polluters and environmental destroyers to safeguard environmental public interests. These are some of our international networks, and please feel free to give me questions. Thank you.
Thank you for such a wonderful explanation to what I had asked, ma'am. And this makes me think that whenever we talk about environment sustainability, we obviously have to take into account the policy approaches that we take at the national governmental level. So my question is to Mr. R.S. Rawat. I would want to bring him into the discussion at this moment. Sir, belonging to the field of forest research and sustainable management of forests, what suitable policies or strategies the national governments can adopt, obviously according to their diverse ecosystems, because it really depends which region and what place, what kind of resources do we have to build such strategies and to finally execute them. So.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you, and good afternoon, all of you. I have prepared some slides so that just I want to share.
Yes.
Okay, PPT is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, all of you. And my organization is a Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. The mandate of ICFRE or Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education is to achieve long-term ecological stability, sustainable development, and economic security through conservation and scientific management of our forest ecosystem. As all of us know that as per historic records, we have about 65% of its geographic area of the country under forest covers, which has been gradually decreased to 40% by the middle of 19th century. And as on date, we have a 24.6%, that is about 80 million hectares of our geographic area under forest and tree cover. As India has a mega diverse country and supporting to global biodiversity hotspot and having a more than 45,000 of floral species and more than 91,000 of faunal species. And as far as India is concerned, we have a large number of villages which are just near to forest ecosystem, and these villages are known as forest fringe villages, and having more than 1,73,000 villages, or we can say 173,000 villages are known as forest fringe villages. And in all these forest fringe villages, more than 300 million people are residing, which are directly and indirectly depending on forest for their livelihood. And even we have a large number of joint forest management committees comprising of all these local communities, which are managing more than 22 million hectares of low productive forest across the country. And the long-term goal of policy goal of Government of India is to bring 33% of our total geographic area under forest and tree cover. And this is a sector-wise national greenhouse gas emissions are concerned as far as our country. And the forest ecosystem is a net sink of carbon. You just see the graphs highlighted in a green color. These are towards the negative sides, means we are in net sinks of carbon dioxide. Our forests are not emitting any greenhouse gases. They are just a sink of carbon dioxide. about 15% of total greenhouse gas emissions our forests are offsetting. On this is mainly due to our conservation-centric policies and acts, as well as a number of forestry programs and projects are being implemented in India to achieve the policy goals of having a 33% of forest and tree cover in our country. This is just the impacts of climate change on different forest types across the country. The red color shows that how our forest grids will change from two time periods in terms of 2030 as well as 2080. This is just based on the modeling studies. As all of us know that the forestry systems of India was mainly a timber-centric as well as revenue generation activities, and our activities were mainly focusing on harvesting of timbers as well as afforestation through plantation of tree species. And in India, during the year 1870s, Forest Department was established to sustainably manage our forest ecosystem. And the first regular policies of the forestry was issued in 1894. Again, this first forest policy of India, the main object was to promote general well-being of the country, as well as the primary function was timber production as well as revenue generation. Then after independence, we have the new forest policy that was a 1952. Again, this forest policies was main aim was to produce a timber as well as to generate the revenue from the forest. And this forest policy is as aim to achieve 33% of our geographic area under forest and tree covers. And then this forest policies was revised again during the year 1988, which is still existing as per this current forest policy of 1988. Again, we have a 33% of total geographic area of the country under forest and tree cover, and about 68% of total geographic area of the mountain states under forest and tree cover. Sorry. And again, this can be achieved through conservation and protection of our existing forest, as well as to restore degraded forest, and through people participations. And the concept of joint forest management was come in existence after this forest policy of 1988. And this forest policy also promoted the farm forestry as well as agroforestry in private lands, so that we will be in a position to achieve the target of 33% through forest and tree cover. Now, Government of India is revising the national forest policies of 1988, and they have developed a draft during the year 2018. The main motto of devising a new forest policy is to achieve all the international commitments as well as national targets of 33%, because due to a number of phenomena like climate change as well as biodiversity, then they are in the process of revising our existing forest policies of 1988. That is still in the draft phase. As far as international commitments are related to forest, under the Paris Agreement, Government of India has submitted a nationally determined contribution, or we can say NDC target goals. And the NDC goals, as far as forestry sector is concerned, to create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent through creation of additional forest and tree cover, again by 2030. This is one of the ambitious targets committed by Government of India as a post-2020 climate change action as far as India is concerned. Again, we have to achieve all the biodiversity targets, or we can say achieve targets under this Convention on Biological Diversity. And under the Convention on Combating Desertification and Land Degradations, we have to achieve land degradation neutrality target by 2030, and that is about 26 million hectares. and bond challenge commitment, as well as we have to achieve all the sustainable development goals. The two goals, goal number 13 and 15 are directly related to forest, but however, forest ecosystem plays a major role in achieving all the goals, as all the 17 goals are directly or indirectly related to forest. The government of India has implemented a number of initiatives to conserve our forest ecosystem and to sustainably manage. I have just listed some of the policies acts here: Wildlife Protection Act, Forest Conservation Act, National Agroforestry Policy, National Working Plan Code, CAMPA Act, Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act, National REDD+ strategies. Again, some programs are being implemented in the country to protect or to conserve our forest ecosystem, as well as biodiversity of our forest ecosystem. And India has organized a COP 14 meetings of the United Nations Convention on Climate Change during September 2019 at Delhi NCR. And our Honorable Prime Minister has announced in the High Delegation High Segment meeting of this UNCCD to establish a Center for Excellence on Sustainable Land Management at our organization, IC Farid Dehradun, and the center will promote the South-South cooperation through addressing land degradation issues, and mainly the center will be responsible for undertaking knowledge sharing and transfer of technologies related to sustainable land management, capacity building in land degradation neutrality target setting, as well as in achieving all these LDN targets, and to conceptualize and implement transformative projects which lead to achieving the LDN targets. And it will again provide the technical supports to our ministries related to land degradation neutrality and restoration of degraded lands, as well as sustainable management. And this center will also provide a support or also build the capacities and share all the knowledge with the UNCCD countries parties, so that they will be able to achieve their land degradation neutrality target. And now I'll just come in the key areas in which I am working, that is a REDD+. And this REDD+ is one of the mechanism, climate change mitigation mechanism under United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And this mechanism has a potential to bring synergies among all three Rio Conventions, that is Convention on Climate Change, because this REDD+ mechanism has a potential to address the climate change issues through mitigating as well as adapting. And it will also address the issue of biodiversity conservation as well as restoration of degraded lands. And besides providing synergies related to climate change, restoration of degraded lands and biodiversity connection, it will also, or it has a potential to provide income generation activities or livelihood support to the participating local communities in implementations of REDD+ activities. As per the UNFCCC decisions, each and every developing country parties has to develop the 4 key elements, that is national strategies or action plan, national forest monitoring system, safeguard information system, and forest reference levels for getting a result-based finance through implementation of REDD+ activities. As far as India is concerned, we have already developed national REDD+ strategies for implementation of REDD+, and we have already submitted forest reference levels that has been technically assessed by the UNFCCC. Now we have developed a safeguard information system, and very shortly we will be in the process to submit the safeguard information system for implementation of REDD+ to the UNFCCC, and national forest monitoring system is also under development. And I hope very soon we'll be able to submit national forest monitoring systems to UNFCCC. And after developing all these 4 key elements, then India will become to tap a result-based finance through implementations of REDD+ activities. And again, this will be helpful in mitigating as well as adapting through this climate change. And during the year, we have developed the national REDD+ strategies for India, which has been released in 30 August 2018 and subsequently submitted to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and that is available on UNFCCC website. The objective of this National RED Plus strategy is to facilitate implementation of RED Plus program in the country that is in conformity with the decisions of the UNFC as well as the objectives of our national forestry programs as well as the environment. As far as the implementation of this RED Plus strategy is concerned, there is one governing body that is known as National Governing Council at ministry levels under the chairmanship of the Honorable Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. This and National Governing Council is again assisted by national designated entities, and in each and every state has to create a state RED Plus cells for implementation of RED Plus activities. And there are two technical bodies. One is a thematic advisory committee, again headed by FSI for a Survey of India, and the RED Plus technical working group headed by Indian Council of Forestry Research to provide the support for policy finance as well as safeguards and capacity building of the stakeholders related to RED Plus. And we have developed the safeguard information systems as one of the mandatory requirement of the UNFCCC for getting reserve-based finance. As far as this RED Plus mechanism is concerned, this RED Plus is not only a carbon-centric. Besides providing a carbon benefit, it also provides non-carbon benefits. So there is as far as Cancun Agreement is concerned, there are 7 safeguards which are related to forest governance, community, as well as environment, and each and every developing country participating in RED Plus activity has to address and respect all these Cancun safeguards so that the benefits of implementation of RED Plus activities can be maximized in terms of improving our ecosystems, goods and services, conserving our biodiversity, restoring our natural forest, as well as providing employment or livelihood opportunities to the local communities, and as well as also safeguarding rights of the local communities. And we have also developed, as mentioned by Madam Ravina Bhargav, state action plan for the 4 states of India, and these are developed again in collaboration with the state forest department as well as local communities through multi-stakeholder consultation process. In each and every state action plan, we have identified the drivers of deforestation, drivers of forest degradation, as well as barriers for enhancement of forest carbon stocks. And in all these state action plans, a comprehensive intervention packages with detailed activities has been suggested so that our health of our forest can be improved, and the benefits of RED Plus can also be provided to the local communities. And ICFRE has built the capacity of all the states forest departments for developing state RED action plans for implementations of RED Plus activities, because our national RED Plus strategy says that each and every state has to develop their own state RED action plan for implementation of national RED Plus strategies at state level. I have just listed some of the points here that need to be think so that we will be in a position to sustainably manage our forest resources, maintain a stable forest land base so that continuous flow of ecosystem goods and services can be ensured, as human capital is not a substitute for the forest-based natural capital. Again, we have to conserve the biodiversity of our native plants, animals, as well as ecosystem, genetic diversity across the country, and restoring the species as well as habitats of the threatened species, and maintain the diverse forest size, structure, species compositions on the landscape basis, and maintain and increase the quality and quantity of water from forest ecosystem. And ICFRE has developed a detailed project report for rejuvenating our holy river Ganga, and that was as a part of Namami Gange program, and to provide a forestry interventions for the Ganga, so that Aviral Dhara means an uninterrupted flow of water, and Nirmal Dhara, clean water, as well as ecological rejuvenation can be ensured. This DPR is under implementations, and recently our Honorable Minister has released that we have also developed 13 DPRs for the 13 major river systems of India, from Himalayas, peninsular rivers, as well as inland rivers. These are Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Vyas, Satluj, Yamuna, Brahmaputra, Loni, Narmada, Godavari, Mahanadi, Krishna, and Kaveri. Again, the dictum is to provide Aviral Dhara uninterrupted flow as well as Nirmal Dhara clean water. And this forestry interventions for rejuvenating our river system, they will not only increase the green cover, but will also conserve the soil, recharge our water tables, sequester more carbon dioxide, in addition to providing a number of non-timber benefits for the local communities. And these, and then again, the capacity building is one of the important aspects. Then capacity building of all the stakeholders need to be developed for sustainable management of our forest, and to maintain or increase forest-based employment as well as community stability, and maintain a system of institutions, policy, regulations, and incentives that support sustainable forest management, and to increase the environmental literacy and engage wide range of stakeholders in sustainable management of forests. These are a point I have flagged here, so that these points, implementing of these points or thinking on these points can be ensured for sustainability of our forest ecosystem in future. And thank you very much. This is all about.
Thank you, Dr. Rawat, for such an enumerating and it was very explanatory in all senses to get to know what is happening. Now, this brings me quickly to one very important question. Being a professor of international trade law myself, at this point, I would want to bring in Matzal, and I would want to know from you that Mitzal, with your diverse background, and especially in public health and agricultural sustainability, this North-South cooperation or North-South divide that we talk about, how far we need to, again, start rethinking about these strategies that we talk about, because the action that we need to take is urgent and imminent. So how do you think this developing world and developed world philosophies co-join together, and maybe they can create a better solution, or it has to be some other way? I want to know from you.
Thank you very much for this very, very interesting question. And thank you everyone before me who shared their stories, because yeah, I think we learned, it was a very elaborate and good overview of the knowledge that is there already, and actually the experience that we have, and what we know that actually needs to be done, and also how it needs to be done. So talking about Patricia Rickard, about the multidisciplinary need of solving the oceans sustainability crisis there as well. And okay, I prepared good links with all of them, but so we know that we need to have a system approach. We know that we have to include everyone in our communities, but also indeed everyone from all parts of the world together to be able to solve it. And if we look at also ecology and forestry examples that we found, we see that it's both we both need to solve it there, because it's the source of our food, it's the source of life, it's the source of everything we need to have a sustainable and thriving society. But also it's a very vulnerable place, and but if we understand the use of or the value of it, and we can also see that it's a source of employment, and it shows the importance of policy making to bring all those different interests are around those forest farms and everything together. So I will try to include what we learned and your question with the story of the Green Office as well. So I also prepared some slides. Let me see if I can. So yeah, the Green Office movement started in 2010 in Maastricht in the Netherlands, and it was started by a group of German students, and they wanted to, in a positive, optimistic way, they wanted to do hands-on action to make their own institution more sustainable. And that is also the core of the Green Office, and the energy that we want to bring over, the culture that we want to bring over, is to start with your own context, but not just like your individual context, but also the wider context in which you work and in which you are learning. So in this case, this was the university institution, and it catches on with Green Office around it well. So therefore it grows, and we now have between 60 and 70 Green Offices. However, we are still mainly in the Netherlands, in Germany, and in Belgium, but we are actively trying to make our model more able to be applied in different contexts, and also build more partnerships all over the world. We have a very active Green Office in Brazil, UPF, and we have one in Uganda, and one in Costa Rica, and one in Belarus. So we have and one in New Zealand since a short time. So we are trying to become more wider, and we also really want to include the wisdom and the knowledge and the culture of different cultures to actually expand on the way we understand sustainability and the solutions that we have. And as I will tell more about how our concept is built up, I will explain how we integrate such different knowledge. So a little bit more about how our views and our vision and mission. So the Green Office, the idea is that we are a student-led and staff-supported sustainability platform, which means that often like we support that the initiative and the ideas and the energy to change comes from the students, and the university or the high school or the higher education institution, they facilitate and they coach and they help them to actually fulfill their ideas and their plans. So in this way, as you said also in the beginning, when you introduced me, like we really like this bottom-up and this top-down approach to bring it together and make a community-up approach. So on the one hand, we focus on institutional change, where we also motivate institutions to change their policies, to change their curricula, to change the research topics that they actually work on. And on the other hand, we want to bring as many stakeholders as possible together to work together on this topic. So we want to understand everyone that is engaged with sustainability and looking at all the different SDGs and organize events and activities so we can inform them better, we can bring them together and allow them to act. And also in the structure that the Green Office often have, we focus on this whole institution approach. So as I said, we focus on governance in the middle, but we focus on improving the education, the research, the community, but also very importantly, the actual action, so that the footprint of the institutions goes down as well, so that we have campuses with more biodiversity, that the canteens also have vegetarian and vegan options, or that that there is a mobility policy that we stimulate people to go by train or by bike, or yeah, all that kind of things that make sure that also the CO2 footprint of the institution itself and all the people connected to it go down as well. And how we try to be as effective and impactful as possible. As I said, the students are in a core team, the staff is supporting the students, and also they make sure that there is a more stable, how do you say that? Like, it's often difficult to keep all the knowledge inside an organization. It's in general in any organization difficult, but especially if you work with young people, with students, they come and they go after a year or something. So it's also very important for staffs to be involved so they can create some kind of stability. And then, yeah, we try to, very much focus or like stimulate institutions to offer mandate, to offer office space, and to offer also funding so the students can actually be paid for their work. We think this is very important to also for the stability and also for the impact, so that the projects are actually allowed and can be resourced to be done, to be like put in practice, and that there is actually a space for events, for meetings, but also to show, to have like, to take care of some plans, to have some information, some library or like specific stuff that helps us to convey the message of sustainability. And then of course, the projects and the volunteers that are being involved are a key part of it as well. And a little bit more about why it is so important for students, for young people to be involved in such a project next to the impact that we make is, yeah, SOS, our host organization, let's say, Students Organizing for Sustainability International. They have done research in 2020 towards young people and how they actually see the world and see what is needed to be done. So 92% of the people actually agree that sustainable development is something which all universities and colleges should actively incorporate and promote. So this shows that, yeah, often we think like more people should want to change, but actually most people already know that we have this problem and that we need to change. So it's often more that they don't know how, or that there are not enough resources, or they have the feeling that other people don't want to change. So it's very actually interesting to see how many people are already knowledgeable that this is something that's very important and they would like to learn about it. At the same time, only 40% report that there is low or no coverage of this topic in their curricula. So this shows also why the education part of what we focus on in the Green Office is so important, because yeah, the Sustainable Development Goals are so wide and broad. Every course, every study is related to it in some way. So there is a lot of opportunity there to bring sustainability in more courses and allow more people, to empower more young people to actually work, apply sustainability in their work after they have finished their studies, but also, of course, during their studies, if they are active in projects such as the Green Office. An interesting viewpoint as well is that 90% of the respondents say they are willing to accept a salary sacrifice to work in a company with good environmental and social record. So if we look at, I don't know how that is in other countries, but for example, it's on the one hand very difficult to find a job for young people because there is a lot of experience but on the other hand, many companies also struggle with finding the right people to fill their job openings. So if you want to be interesting for young people as an organization, then it's very important to focus on this topic as well, because many people consider this as a very important factor when choosing to find a job. And also many people are worried, basically. So 70% say they're worried, and it's at this point, like we already heard it today as well. And every time we talk about this topic, we hear how urgent it is, how serious the problems are. And on the one hand, of course, we need to be aware of it, but on the other hand, it can be so daunting. It can be so hard to stay energized, to stay positive. And that's what we also want to focus on as a Green Office movement, especially to support people. How can you take care of your mental health? How can you stay optimistic? What can you do in practice to also help them to actually deal with the situation in that way? So some examples connected to the Sustainable Development Goals of activities we do. So we have, for example, we put teachers in the spotlight that are actually focusing on sustainability. We support students to actually set up their own courses that are credited as well, to make sure that people learn about it, even if their own institution doesn't give enough curricula on the topic itself. We also stimulate like hands-on action and entrepreneurial skills by allowing young people to set up their own projects and presenting them and actually doing them as well. We also like to make things more fun. So we like to gamify the activities. For example, here you can throw the waste into a hoop to get them in the right bin. We also help young people, or like everyone involved in the institutions, to have easy access to sustainable food by those, for example, by bringing those bags to the institution so that people can just pick it up there. We have, we stimulate certification. So actually people are more aware of what is sustainable and what is not sustainable. Organize this kind of activities together to make it more fun and interactive and actually good for your health too, to clean up. Also, an important thing is that we engage with the wider community as well and share our experience and knowledge with younger people, or just with other people in our societies, like with school children. Networking, of course, building partnerships is important as well. And co-create. Here we have a co-creation session with the policy makers together with staff and students. Like I'm right now in Hasselt also, where the higher school institution here wants to have a whole institution approach, and they invited stakeholders from operations to policy to externals to together brainstorm and discuss about their policy that they already have, to how they can improve it and make it even more multidisciplinary and inclusive as well. Let me check. Oh yeah, and a little bit more about staff and students' role. So the staff normally leads on university internal projects and staff engagement. So this is often stuff that is already sustainability focused, but sometimes there is not such a staff member yet in the institution, and then it grows. The longer the Green Office is there, often there are more staff people are also actually have sustainability related engagements. And the students then lead more on the community projects and engagement, because they often know what is all going on in the student community, but also around, and they are often more easy to engage others. And the staff is also really important to coordinate and support job students with projects and personal developments. So often students have a coach, or the staff members, they find training opportunities, and they have like talks with the students to support them in their work. And the students learn a lot of project management skills, and also team engagement skills, systems change, practical skills on how to organize events by coordinating those projects. And also they often lead actually a bigger team with volunteers. So they also learn to coach newer people then. And then it's also very important that they co-decide on the strategy and collaborate on joint projects. Just some tips that we give with them. So it's very much about stop share. It's very much about creating in the context that you are finding collaborators to work together, and then see where their energy is already there. So what is already happening, and where are the gaps, and then from there build and create a positive practical change. And to apply that more to the wider world, let's say. So one of our approaches to grow more worldwide is that we try to grow organically. So a lot of exchange students have a period that they are more in the Western countries where we are more based right now. And then if they go back, or if other students go to other countries, they often bring the concept with them and build it up there. And also we actively discuss with student organizations all over the world to see how we can adapt the model to be more applicable. For example, in some institutions, it's more difficult to actually hire students in their institutions. And then we for example, try to make sure that they get student points, or they get work experience that they can put on their CV. So they get something back for the work they put in, because we think it's very important to have like this, this feedback, let's say. So often many people are really passionate about sustainability and they do everything voluntarily, but in the end, that's not sustainable as well, because everyone has to eat and everyone has to pay the rent at some point. So that's why we find it important to also have a sustainable model in that sense. We have also the ambassador track. So right now there is some applicants also from Lebanon and Liberia and some other countries. So in this way, we coach people that know about the model and that want to implement it in their own country, to get familiar with it, to help them prepare for meetings with their staff, with their university policymakers. And we have, for example, an online course that people can already take, which is for free, to already get into the whole process of like, how do you start, what needs to be done, how do you ask for funding, how all these kind of things. And we are very open to always talk with anyone interested to make the model better applicable to your situation. So we really hope in that sense to bring also the knowledge and experience that is already in different parts of the world, but that we are not having access to yet, to bring that together and to become stronger as a worldwide community working on sustainability. So, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I think you answered it the best possible manner, March. So with this, I also have to bring into the discussion Mr. Naveen Mathur, because when we talk about environmental sustainability, as Mart rightly said, and with all the other panelists bringing in their ideology. So, Mr. Mathur, my question to you would be that with the rapid industrialization and the growing urbanization that we are into neck deep, we still have to, bring in creative ways, more innovative ways. So, what is your take on this?
Sorry, I cannot follow your question with the.
So, what is it? Sorry, I cannot follow your.
Yeah, hello, yes. So when we talk about sustainability, I think what's important is to look at water security and sustainability of this resource. Because as we all know, water is a elixir of life on planet Earth. It's not just for human beings, but for flora and fauna to flourish on planet Earth. And unfortunately, the way we've been exploiting water resources because of population increase, urbanization, industrialization, this resource is not going to last forever. And while we keep hearing of various initiatives which are being taken to essentially in the areas of recycling, reuse or rejuvenation of existing water bodies. There is no technology which per se is there today on planet Earth to generate water, and that is what I want to talk about. How we've used a nature-based technology to harvest moisture from the atmosphere, and that on a highly scalable basis. And I just wanted to share my small screen presentation. Can I do that?
Yes, sir, you may share, sir, but there's this small request if your audibility could be a little more for all of us, because your voice is cracking in between, sir. Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible now.
Yeah. So I switched that. Because there's a problem here. So I would want to talk to you about a technology which harvests fresh water from the air. It's a perennial and unlimited natural source of generating water on a sustainable basis. This nature-based solution ensures, in fact, it guarantees global water security. Now, as we all know, water resources on planet Earth are finite. 97% of the water which is available today on planet Earth is in the glaciers, and so not easily accessible to mankind. 2% is locked in glaciers, and essentially that leaves only about 1% of existing water resources. That is the fresh water, what we call fresh water, which is ground and surface water resources, which is abundantly being used and exploited to a very large extent. Population growth, industrialization, urbanization, excessive use by agriculture, these are some of the reasons which has led to water becoming a very, very acute problem. And they say that if there's going to be another world war, it is going to happen because of water. So what we need, what we have done, I would want to talk about that. We have looked at this at a completely different angle, because we realize that actually the solution to this problem lies in the air, which is essentially the original freshwater resource. There is so much water in the air around us in the form of vapor that less than 1% of it is actually enough to meet the entire requirements of mankind, flora as well as fauna. So mind you, on one side, we were exploiting 1% of the freshwater resources, be it ground or surface water resources. On the other side, 1% is actually enough to meet the entire requirement. And the beauty of this is that we can tap into this virtually infinite resource to generate water on a highly scalable as well as sustainable basis. And that's where our company, Maitri Aquatech, comes in. Our vision is to build air from water as a category, which ensures a perennial supply of water while preserving crucial ground and surface water resources. Let me explain the technology and what we do and how we do this. So what we have done is we have our innovative product is called Meghdoot, or Messenger of the Skies. And if I have to explain the technology very, very simplistically, we mimic the natural rain cycle or the natural water cycle. So typically in the natural water cycle, there is evaporation of water happening from the sea, from surface water resources, and then there's condensation happens and a cloud gets formed, and it comes back as rainfall. So essentially, if you look at it, that's how we get our water resources being replenished on a regular basis through the natural rain cycle. So we use technology to generate rain inside our machine, and that's exactly what we do to ensure that we get the purest water from air, which is actually never touched the ground. So you can imagine the water resources which we are used to today essentially is groundwater. So even for drinking, the potable water resources which are being used are essentially coming from groundwater. So there is some possibility of some kind of a contamination. Vis-a-vis air water is water which you can imagine it is so pure, it has never touched the ground. In spite of that, we ensure that the multi-level filtration to the water which once gets generated so as to ensure that there's absolutely no possible contamination. We also add back minerals to the water which once gets generated so as to ensure the water meets WHO as well as Indian standards of potable water. So that's about the technology. Very, very simple. It's a plug-and-play solution. We can generate high quality fresh water anywhere. And the beauty of this technology is it's a plug-and-play solution. All it needs is some power source, and that power can be through the regular grid, or it also works on renewable sources of energy, be it solar, wind, or probably a combination of both. And you get water on demand wherever you want it at the scale at which you require this. I'm happy to tell you that we have already generated over 100 million liters of water using this technology, thereby saving at least 200 million liters of scarce and depleting groundwater. And we already have over 600 projects across 27 countries, and we have helped converting net consumers of water to net producers of water by creating a water infrastructure and making people water positive. We are working, as we speak, we are working with some of the largest multinational Fortune 500 companies who have been early adopters of this technology, and they've been using Meghdoot to reduce their water footprint and become water positive. So all the big companies today, be it Google, Microsoft, Amazon, SAP, they're all using our innovative technology today to meet their own in-house potable water initiatives. Along with that, the initiatives which they take across in the communities in which they want to do a social intervention. This is a very beautiful nature-based solution. We have also helped create infrastructure, water infrastructure, where there is no infrastructure or a compromised structure. So, for instance, we have installed this in communities to provide water to them on a sustainable basis. We have provided this to commuters on the go. For that matter, we have by installing this in railway stations. We have installed this also in the municipal offices. Mind you, the municipal the office is essentially responsible for providing water in a community in India, and they are the ones who have come back to us and have said that we also need a sustainable source. So we've also done that by providing it to municipal offices. Now, another very interesting thing what we have done is using this technology is we have set up the world's first bottling plant, renewable water bottling plant. As you know, most bottling plants today depend on groundwater, and they exploit a lot of groundwater because about close to 70 to 80% of the water gets wasted during the entire process of purification. We have set up the world's first bottling plant using this technology, and that generates water on the go without any requirement of scarce or depleting groundwater resources. So that's a little bit about the technology, and it is today being widely used, and as we speak, we are helping create water infrastructure across the globe in water-stressed countries, in water-stressed regions. And I think this is, whenever they say when the going gets tough, the tough get going, you always have to look at alternatives around you. So if you keep doing the same thing again and again, you get the same results. So do things differently, look at something what we've done, use a very nature-based solution by harmonizing something which is available in abundance around us to generate water. And I think similar such initiatives can be taken to ensure security so that we have a much more sustainable future. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I mean, amongst all you inspirational personalities, so much. I mean, amongst all you inspirational personalities, my voice is echoing, so I'm sorry for that, but I'll keep going.
I think it's okay now. It's okay.
All right. So with everybody around, I am full of energy and I have a lot of other things to ask, ponder upon, deliberate, but due to paucity of time, I would say that all the participants here, including our dear students, our faculty members, with the expert panel, we have so much to synthesize and so much to sort of look forward to amongst whatever challenges that we face as a human race. We have to come together, as all of you so nicely, so patiently told about your personal journeys and how you have come so far. So it's really inspiring. I would give the voice note back to Priya, the convener of this international symposium. Thank you, everyone. I'm really enthralled and I'm very grateful for this experience. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you too.
I believe we have met before today's event. We have individually met with almost every panelist here. We have had a meeting, and this endeavor has been spread over 6 months, where we have interacted many a times over different meetings to discuss the conception. So from my end, from the end of DME Law School and from the conference committee, a very big thank you to all of you for taking time out, managing your different time zones. I'm sure there's a different time at your place. It's evening for us. It's quite comfortable because we're ending our working day, but it's not, I'm sure it's not the same for you. But nevertheless, you managed time and you came here, you spoke to us, you told us, you gave us your inputs, and you explained us your work. So we are eternally and extremely grateful and very thankful that you joined us here today. So thank you very much to each one of you. And like Ravina ma'am said, we are at the end of it because of paucity of time. And we hope that in future, we can again interact with you at a more elaborate and a leisure pace and learn more about each other and learn more about your work and take it forward from there. So thank you very much, everyone. And we bid you goodbye and hope you have a very, very nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. This is an amazing event.
Thank you for the invitation. Goodbye.